So in this video, we're going to be talking about the story of us saving over $27,000 in less than a year to be able to go traveling through Europe for a full year.
We'll share with you why we did it, how we did it, and if you can too.
Hello fellow wealth builders, and welcome back to the TruFinancials channel. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about how we saved over $27,000 in less than a year. But first, if you are new here, my name is Dennis, and this is my beautiful wife joining me here today. And what we typically talk about here on this channel is personal finance, investing, and retirement to really help you build your wealth and become more financially free. So if that's something you are interested in, consider subscribing with us today.
So before we share our story, there are two things that I want to cover with you. The first is if you are watching this video because you're interested in traveling for an extended amount of time, let us know in the comment section where you want to go, how long you want to travel for. We went to Europe and spent just about a year there, but we'd really love to know where you want to go. And then the second thing is we are sharing with you our story. So your story may be completely different. We're just going to share with you where we went, how we did it, and why. We went to Costa Rica for our honeymoon. And we knew before even going there that we wanted to travel and that it was really important to us to do so. And going to Costa Rica solidified the fact that we really wanted to go and experience new cultures and see the world together.
Yeah, we were actually on the airplane on the way back home after experiencing so many great things in Costa Rica. And one of the things that really got to me when we were in Costa Rica to begin with was actually at a resort towards the end. And we were talking to another couple, and they found out that we were, recently married, so they're asking us questions. But they told us that they went to that same resort for 5 years in a row. Now, for me personally, that just seems really boring. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah,
but for us, we're both kind of like, no, we want to see more than just one place over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so that's what really kind of got our gears running when we were traveling back home from this honeymoon to think, okay, well, what is it that we really want to do? And Europe seemed like such a great option because obviously it's very popular, but there's a couple other little things that actually caused us to want to really, really go to Europe.
I told Dennis that I really wanted to travel, and this is something we had discussed before we even got married. And he said, okay, let's do it in 3 years. And I thought to myself, well, in 3 years, a lot can change. We want to start a family, we want to start businesses, and I feel like it would have been too difficult to pick up our lives and go. So I said, what if we do it in 1 year? How did you react?
It was a little crazy in my head there for a moment, but what I was going through in my head was that it was not possible to just like drop everything and go unless we planned for it. And we're gonna get to that in a little bit here, but planning is of course one key element to making this a very successful thing. So make sure you're sticking around for the whole story. But when she mentioned that, I was looking at our numbers, I was looking at everything else as well, and the possibility of doing it in about a year was actually potentially feasible depending on how hard we wanted to work for it.
That's important. How hard do you want to work for it? Okay, so once I brought it into Dennis's mind that I really wanted to do this in a year, we kind of went into planning. Well, can we do this? Can we financially make this happen? Not only can we afford to go, but can we afford to pay for the things that we had to take care of regardless, like student loans and insurance and stuff like that. So traveling is something that I've always wanted to do, and I was really excited when Dennis said that he was on board for that too. I've always wanted to go to Europe, and I have had this love for Paris and France, and I studied the language in high school, and then I love Italy. I've always imagined myself living there and traveling through Tuscany, and that's something that I really wanted to do. Not only was traveling really important, but we have so many things that we wanted to accomplish, and we knew that if we waited too long to travel, it would be far too difficult to leave businesses and children behind to go and travel.
Yeah, so the interesting thing for me personally when it came to this whole notion of maybe going and traveling for a year and kind of dropping everything, I actually had somebody where I was working at, they came in and they had these amazing cool little bracelets on their hand. And I told Vanessa this story, and it really got to me, and this is kind of what really got us into big gear on top of everything else that we wanted to do for this trip. But this lady, she was probably like 60 or 65 years old, and she was telling me how she just recently went traveling through Europe, oddly enough, and how she loved it, but she was so sad about the whole experience because she couldn't go with her husband since he had passed away just a couple of years earlier, and they always talked about doing it but just never had the chance to do it, and then she had to wait until she was over 65 years old to be able to actually get to experience the stuff. So that really resonated with us. We kind of said to ourselves, well, one, we're really young, so we can sleep in bunk beds, or we can sleep in twin size beds, which we did. We'll talk more about that. And just the overall idea that we don't want to wait too long to be able to experience certain things in our lives. And then the like she mentioned and alluded to is having kids or starting our businesses it's really difficult to be able to drop those things and just go, versus where we just had typical careers, and then those were a lot easier to just kind of say goodbye to and then come back to something else. So for us, the big reason why is honestly so that way we were able to do it at a younger age, be able to experience a lot more and do so much in a shorter period of time, and not have to really worry about a lot of other things that typically most people would once they get into like their 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, because other things do come up at that point. All right, so when we came up with this plan to go traveling, we didn't want to just stick to one place entirely. We wanted to kind of do that cliche thing of traveling all through Europe. And the reason we chose that year was because we really wanted to make sure that we were able to experience the culture, be able to actually be there and not just go for a day or two and then just go to the next place. And the cool thing about going to Europe, especially for me, was I actually have family in Romania. And so that made it a really cool experience to be able to go visit and see all this family. And on top of that, there was also so many other things that we were able to experience because we gave ourselves so much additional time, instead of just that 1, 2, 3, even 4 weeks that some people give themselves.
And while we were able to make 1 year of travel work for us, it may be different for you. Don't let anything deter you from traveling, even if it's just for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it can work even if you just go for a couple of weeks, maybe even for like a month or two. So for you, it might be a couple of weeks in Europe or a few weeks in Asia or South Africa or wherever else you want to actually go. So just make that for yourself, because just because we were able to do a year doesn't necessarily mean doing a couple of weeks or a couple of months somewhere else doesn't take away from your ability to be able to enjoy that time.
Now, how did we do it?
So, of course, as we mentioned earlier, we saved over $27,000 to be able to go traveling. And we did that in less than a year. Now, for a lot of people, it depends on your income and it depends on a couple other things. But there, I think, are a few caveats that can really help anybody in any situation, whether you are trying to go for, traveling for a year or anything else. And one of the biggest things is determination. I think if you have determination to be able to do something, you have the intent to want to do it, you can achieve a lot of great things. Now, for us, we wanted to do it as quickly as possible, so we definitely worked really, really hard to be able to achieve this goal.
I remember being at my full-time job in marketing, and I wrote down this plan of how much money we could save every month, and we were kind of surprised at the number. And then we realized, if we get a second job or a third job, we can accomplish it. And we did.
Yeah, so we actually ended up taking up additional jobs. And I know that's not for everybody, but that's what we really wanted to do, because we actually wanted to start our travels at our 1 year anniversary from our wedding date. And for us, that was a big goal. And even if we missed it by a little bit, I think it would have been okay. But I think our determination really caused us to be able to hit that goal. Now, for me, I was able to do a secondary job where I was driving for Lyft all over the place. And that was really helpful to be able to earn extra money, because my job kind of had my shifts kind of switch around all the time, and I was really obligated to be able to go to that job if something were to happen. So Lyft actually gave me a little bit more of an opportunity to be able to work on my own time, and I was actually able to earn quite a bit of money off of it because of the way I was actually able to manage my time and my mileage as well.
And I had a full job in marketing, like I said, which again had very odd hours, similar to Dennis. So I picked up a job working weekends, solely on the weekends. It was Saturdays. And then I thought, you know what, I have time before my full-time job and I have time after my full-time job. So I picked up a job in sales, and it was commission-based. So sometimes I would have really great paychecks and sometimes it wasn't that great. But like he said, it was that determination of when we would get home and we were exhausted and we hadn't seen each other in hours, and sometimes it'd be days, we would remember, okay, well, we'll be in Paris, or we're gonna go to Romania and eat Romanian food where his parents were born. And that really just kept us going.
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us was the fact that not only did we get additional jobs, but we also got really tight with our budget. And that was a really big thing. Now, of course, on this channel, we do talk a lot about budgets and how, to better manage our budgets. So for us, what we really did is we looked at everything and saw, what was most important to us right now versus what can we do while we're traveling. And one of my favorite things for my wife was every time she wanted to do something, I was like, but wait, what if we had wine in Spain? Or what if we had wine in Italy or chocolate in France?
A great example, I'm so sorry to cut you off. A great example is Halloween. Our first Halloween as a married couple ironically landed on a Saturday, and while everybody was going out and buying $60, $70 Halloween costumes and spending money on candy and alcohol and lots of fun, we decided that we were going to stay home. And that was really hard because it was on a Saturday and we both love the holiday, and we decided to do nothing. We watched a movie and we made dinner at home. But then a year later, we were celebrating Halloween in Athens. We were in Greece for the first time. We boarded a plane from Istanbul and landed in Greece. And I remember thinking, this is so worth staying at home for Halloween and doing nothing, because we were in a different country experiencing a new culture.
Yeah,
so worth it.
So really look into it in that kind of lens, where you say, okay, what am I sacrificing right now for something later? And I think that's what really was the key for us, was really understanding that we can give something up so we can have something greater in the future. And it really worked well for us, because we did end up having chocolate in France or wine in Italy and Spain, and got to do so many cool things that we otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to do as much if we didn't really determine ourselves to say, hey, this is going to be worth sacrificing for right now. So aside from just giving up things such as like Halloween, we really paid more attention to, what we were spending our money on, whether it was like eating out or our groceries. So we got really tight with our food budget. We got really tight with how much we actually spent outside of the house. And we really honed in on what was so key for us, from what we actually needed to our phone bills, all the way to even our electricity and how much we're actually using for our electricity, so that way we can actually cut down on it.
So once we had established how much money we both had to save every month, we realized that there was a little bit of wiggle room in it. As long as we met this certain amount that we had to save, sometimes we would spend on going out to eat to celebrate a birthday, or sometimes we would realize, okay, well, you know what? It's cold outside and our jacket has a hole in it, so we have to go and buy a new one. As long as you really stick to the budget firmly, you'll be able to accomplish your goal.
Yeah, and like she said, there are wiggle rooms, when you have like a set budget and you know how much you need to save. So it's not really constricting that most people kind of think of it when you talk about budgets. Budgets actually give you the freedom to do a lot more. So yeah, there was a couple times that we sacrificed for Halloween, but then we would also be able to do other things that we would normally want to still be able to do, whether it was have like a campfire with friends here at the house, or just be able to go somewhere. But overall, we were able to feel comfortable doing those things, knowing that we were still able to meet our goal.
So like we mentioned, we did each take on a few different jobs, and that really, really helped us save up as much as we did to travel, because if we were both working our normal jobs, I don't think we would have been able to save up as much as we did.
As quickly as we did.
As quickly as we did.
I think that's
true.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, is that, maybe we would have been able to do it in 2 years, but we didn't want to.
Not in 10 months.
Yeah, not in 10 months saving over $27,000. And the big thing with the $27,000 for us personally was it was from what we were basing everything off of, like the cost of living and food and travel and everything else as well. That number really gave us a very comfortable spot to be able to go traveling for about a year. That was our goal. But the one caveat for us personally was this house that we have is actually already paid off. So we were able to rent this house out every single month to be able to have a little bit of income coming in every single month to be able to continue our journey. So if it wasn't for that, we probably would have been maybe at 9 months, maybe 10 months traveling instead of closer to that full year. So again, little different caveats that change every different perspective based off of our situation that we had versus anybody else's situation. So always keep that in mind, that it's not exact from what you see in the stories from everybody else, because we all have different advantages and disadvantages that we have to overcome, so that way we can achieve these things. So when you look at it for your perspective of you wanting to save up money for this trip or for wherever else that you want to go, look at it from your standpoint on your budgets, where you can hit it and how much harder you have to work for, second jobs, budgeting, cutting your budget down to be able to hit that goal, because it is very possible. And the great thing is it's so worth it once you get to that point. And I think that's the hardest part is, is it going to be worth it for me? The answer is definitely yes.
Absolutely. So now let's focus on you. I want you to really think about how you spend your time. Is it possible and even feasible for you to add on a second job, or add on an activity that's going to help you save up money to achieve your goals.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we learned, and we are still applying this even to this day for other financial goals that we have, is how we allocate our time.
Absolutely.
Time is the most valuable thing that we all possess. So it's, the one thing that we want to be most cautious with. What are you spending your time on, to be able to hit these goals? So if you're telling us, oh, Dennis, I don't know if it's possible to be able to hit that goal. Well, what is it that you're doing, for like 4 or 5 hours every single day that you could be doing an extra job or paying more attention to your budgets? And I think that can really hone in on getting an idea of how you can actually achieve this goal.
So really think about your time. Sometimes maybe giving up a few extra hours watching football to go and find another job to help you save up money is totally worth it, because when you're sitting at the base of the Eiffel Tower eating a Nutella crepe, you're not going to be thinking about, dang it, I really missed that game, or I should have just sat at home and read that book, because you're going to be living this amazing life and really experiencing amazing things that lots of people don't get the opportunity to.
For us, honestly, it was really worth it. And I know we keep kind of mentioning it over and over again, but we really want to get that point across that, sacrificing this stuff now is really worth it in the end. And obviously there's a lot of other little detailed information that you had to learn and, build up on when it comes to actually wanting to go on a trip. But just that notion of, hearing somebody else's story and actually being able to think, okay, is that feasible for me, is the first thing. It's the ability to actually take that leap and say, okay, it's going to be time for me to actually be able to do what it is that I want to do.
So real quick, and this was something that came up so many different times while we were traveling. We'd post a picture or we'd post a video of us somewhere cool, and people would always comment, I'm so jealous. Well, yeah, but no one was telling me that they were so jealous when I was on my 3rd week of having no days off, or the fact that Dennis and I would see each other when we were having dinner and going to sleep. Nobody was jealous of all the hard work that we were doing and all the sacrifices that we were making to get us to have that really cool picture that everybody was really jealous about. So just think about that. When you're working really, really hard, no one is going to come up to you and say, wow, I'm so jealous that you're working so hard and saving so much money and not spending any of it. They will, though, when you're out living your best life and seeing the world.
Yeah, and that's a great point to bring up, is the fact that people do say those kind of things, but they don't look at the back end and actually realize it. So, anytime something looks easy, typically that means somebody did a lot of hard work to be able to get to that point. So, it is going to be a lot of work, but it is worth it if you are willing to do all of it for yourself. All right, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, comment in the comment section down below with that question that we had earlier, and then share this video out with anybody else that can really benefit from this information and that really wants to go traveling.
And in the next episode, we're going to be going into detail with that budget and really share with you how much money we saved and how we saved it to reach our goal.